disburses 679.69 billion naira to the 3 tiers of government. Implementation of the new national minimum wage to begin soon. Nigeria's non-oil exports to the United Arab Emirates hits $608 million. Plus, presidential panel recommends signing of African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Details of these and more will come your way on this episode of Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. And I am Muplang Dakok. The 3 tiers of government had 44.9 billion naira more than the month of April to share as revenue accrued to the nation's treasury in the month of May. Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmad Idris, who presided over the June monthly Federation Accounts Allocation Committee FAC meeting in Kano, also states that revenue from oil royalty and companies' income tax improved tremendously during the month. Muhammad Rabiu Aliu was there for Business News.
Statutory allocations stood at 571.731 billion naira compared to the previous month of 518.916 billion naira, with variance of 52.815 billion naira. While net distribution to federal, state and local government councils was 549.506 billion naira against 501.182 billion naira of previous month. The value-added tax growth for the month of May was 106.826 billion naira as against 96.486 billion naira distributed in the preceding month.
The figures of revenue and the figures of exchange gain as distributed compared to previous months has resulted into an increase in the distribution by 63.5 billion naira in this month compared to previous month. The excess crude account balance as at 26th of June, that is yesterday, is $63.005 million.
The summary of the distribution to the 3 tiers of government, both the statutory and value tax, federal government received 284.163 billion naira, states allocations stood at 187.605 billion naira, while local government councils 140.997 billion naira.
What we are taking home is significantly higher than what we took last month.
Even though the overall figures went up slightly, the various items that made up the figures for my state actually dropped.
Revenue from oil royalty and companies' income tax improved tremendously, while petroleum profit tax decreased significantly.
The implementation of the new national minimum wage approved few months ago will soon commence. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this in a message to the 11th Triennial Delegates Conference of the Trade Union Congress TUC in Abuja, while urging states and employers in the private sector to work towards providing good welfare for their workers. The president's message noted that with several reforms embarked upon, the economy is expected to grow by 2.7% in 2019.
We will, over the next 10 years, create at least 10 million jobs yearly in order to boost our economy and make life better for our people.
Boss Mustafa, who delivered the president's message, also urged state governments and the private sector to implement the minimum wage to encourage workers to contribute to the country's development, adding that the administration will continue to pay attention to the welfare of workers. The small and medium enterprises sector contributes more than 40% to Nigeria's GDP annually, creating employment for millions of people. The plight of such entrepreneurs in the areas of access to credit is again coming to the fore as the country marks Day for the MSMEs. Doyin Dia has details.
Area 11 markets where you have a concentration of both small and medium enterprises. But one thing is unique to them all here: the access to loan, which can help them take their business from the level it is to the desired height. 39-year-old Adebayo Abosede, a small business owner at Area 11 Market, is a widow with 3 children. This small-scale business is the only survival means for her and the children. All she needs to make life easier is just ₦1 million, but that dream seems like building a castle in the air as all efforts to get loan proved abortive.
There is one of a women empowerment, that before we heard about it, and they told us to write our name and everything. We submit it, but since then, 2017, we didn't have anything about it.
Like Abosede, Ibrahim Lawal, a 29-year-old store owner, started this business 10 years ago with just 10,000 naira. But to achieve his dream of a supermarket, he needs 10 million naira.
And I would like to get a big shop, number one, and I don't know how much will I rent it or to buy it on my own.
While digging deep further on the common challenges in these markets are camera lenses, caught Sani Yusuf, a physically challenged entrepreneur. Unlike Abosede and Ibrahim, Yusuf's business only needs 200,000 naira to blossom. The unifying factor, therefore, in this scenario is the easy access to credit. This concern, however, is already taking center stage at the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN, even as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to celebrate the 2019 World SME Day.
To discuss the issue of funding for small and medium enterprises, I have in the studio the Acting Director General SMEDAN, Monday Evans. Thank you for joining us on Business Express.
Thank you so much. Happy to be with you today.
All right. So the United Nations says that micro, small and medium enterprises, that's the MSMEs, are usually the first respondents to the needs of the society. So can you briefly explain to us what exactly this means?
Yes, as we know, all over the world, micro, small and medium enterprises are key to development. Okay. They are key to growth because they contribute wholesomely to issues related to job creation, poverty alleviation, wealth creation, and food security. So they are key all over the world, both in the developing and the developed countries. So that is why before 2017, the International Council for Small Business, ICSB, highlighted the need to recognize the importance of these groups of business, MSMEs, to sustainable development in the world. And following these called by ICSB, United Nations General Assembly then saw that it was important to declare a date for recognizing these MSMEs, for celebrating them. That is why they had to recognize June 27th of every year as a day for celebrating MSMEs in order to recognize their importance to sustainable development across the globe.
Okay, so let's talk about the theme for this year's celebration.
Yes.
It says big money for small business financing the SDGs.
Yes.
So what do you think this theme seeks to achieve?
Yes, you know, on an average entrepreneur will tell you that the major challenge he or she faces is access to affordable finance.
Yes.
But in our practice as an agency of government, we've discovered that though finance is critical, there are other issues you need to take care of before you cannot talk about finance. For instance, you need to have the skills to manage this finance whenever it's available. Yes. You also need to have access to market, whether it is national, regional, or global market. So it means finance alone cannot make you the successful business person. So you need to have other issues. Of course, the issue of enabling environment is also there. So now we're talking about access to finance, because whatever happens, if you don't have finance, you might not be able to complete the cycle of entrepreneurial development. So finance is key. That is why for this year's celebration, we're talking about big money for small businesses and also financing SDGs. If you look at the 17 goals of the SDGs, each of the goals are connected in one way to the other to MSMEs. Because if you support MSMEs, you're also trying in one way or the other to support the 17 goals. That's why they said, if you provide money for small businesses, you're also financing SDGs indirectly. So it's connected.
Okay. So that brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
Do you see the SDGs achieving a milestone through MSMEs
yes.
in the next few years?
Yes, that's what I was saying. You remember that SDGs came after MDGs. And then the MDGs were funded from a portion of the debt relief fund. But now for SDGs, it's a kind of partnership funding for them. So the government is not actually involved in funding SDGs directly. So it's partnership funding that is happening now. So what we are saying is this: if you fund MSMEs from all partners, both in the public and private sector, you should be able to support MSMEs to also contribute to the achievement of these SDGs. Of course, there's a deadline for 2030 to achieve this agenda for SDGs. So if everybody, government, private sector, supports MSMEs, you're also indirectly supporting the attainment of these SDGs by 2030. Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned it yourself that small businesses are talking about lack of finance, so they are groaning under the problem of finance, as well as other issues such as
skills, markets,
yes,
and so on and so forth. Yeah.
What exactly is Smedan doing to address some of these challenges?
Yes, like I said before, Smedan is the government agency saddled with the responsibility of facilitating the development of the micro, small, and medium enterprise subsector in Nigeria. Of course, as part of our general mandate, if you look at the law establishing Smedan, which is the Smedan Act 2003, as amended, there are so many functions, so many things we need to do. But in our operations from day to day, we have summarized it into about 5 key platforms. One is providing information, generating information. 2 is delivering what we call business development service, which includes capacity building, mentoring, counseling, and advisory services. The 3rd one is developing clusters and assisting enterprise formation and so on and so forth. And then the 4th platform is related to policy and public advocacy on behalf of small businesses. On that platform, we regard ourselves as the mouthpiece of small businesses. And then finally, we're facilitating access to critical resources they need for their businesses, like resources like finance, workspace, technology, and so on and so forth. So now, if you look at the law establishing the agency, it does not directly give the agency the power to give money to anybody. You know, so what we do for now is to facilitate access to banking institutions, commercial banks, development finance institutions, and so on and so forth. But recently, we found out that the process is a little bit slow, because when we provide the assistance, help them develop business plan and all that, and then forward to these banking institutions, the process is usually slow, so we're not in control of the process. And then from our records, you know, the approval process is usually slow. So what we decided to do is to think outside the box, and then find a way of making sure that some money are made available to especially these micro enterprises. Remember that the survey we did in 2013 with National Bureau of Statistics, we found out that there are about 37 million MSMEs, and about 36.9 million of them are micro enterprises, and that is about 99.8%. And then remember, these micro enterprises are those people that employ less than 10 persons and have an asset base of less than 10 million. So we said, how do we target this group? At least give them money, because they don't have the capacity to go to regular financial institutions to get money. What we did was to create a program we call Conditional Grant Scheme for Micro Enterprises. And in that program, we give each micro enterprise 50,000 Naira grant, which is to help them support their businesses to go to the next level. And then we have another program we call One Local Government, One Product, which is also a way of giving them money as a grant and as a credit to make sure that they grow, because they cannot get this money easily from banks. I understand the plight of the banks because they cannot lend their shareholders funds without adequate security.
So in summary,
yes,
have you seen all these efforts beginning to yield fruit?
Yes, the two programs I just talked about now, the CGS and all of. The CGS, we started about 2 years ago in a pilot in 6 states in 2000 about 2 years ago. We went to Bonyi, we went to Uyo, we went to Benue, we went to Gombe, we went to Castina. That's one state per geopolitical zone. And then for this year, we've gone to 4 states already: Sokoto, Bauchi, Lagos, and Anambra. So out of this pilot and then the following program, we have impacted about 20,000 entrepreneurs, okay, with the 50,000 capacity building registration. We register them with CAC, we give them BDS and so on and so forth. So we're just starting. And then from our impact analysis and our monitoring, these entrepreneurs, a majority of them are using it for their business and is expanding, they're showing some signs.
Away from access to finance.
Yes.
How can small businesses enjoy market access?
Now, if you look at the market, you have the physical market, you have the virtual market, and so on and so forth. So the physical market is what you can have in Wuse2 and so on and so forth. Yes. Then the virtual market, you can do it from social media, yes, you can do it on internet, and so on and so forth. So these days, it's even better to use the virtual market, where you can use the social media, the Facebook, the Instagram, and so on and so forth to market your products.
Do you think Nigerians are responding well to that?
Yes, a lot of people. Ask them, a lot of people in Abuja, around the major cities where you have access to internet and have access to power, a lot of them are not even looking for physical shops now. Their business is on the net and it's moving very, very well, that kind of thing, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But unfortunately, power has been a problem for these micro, small and medium enterprises. So what do you have as plans to get the right energy mix?
Yes, issue of power is a major problem in terms of infrastructural problems, Now, the agency, as part of government, because we are the voice of the small business, what we do in that respect is also to encourage them on one part to do there are smaller, very small energy works you can do. For instance, you can do small this is solar energy. You can do solar energy. You can do hydro, inverters, this little hydropower inverters and so on and so forth at that small level. Yes. But at the general level, where the federal government comes in terms of making sure that the national grid is working and giving power to small businesses, what we do on that platform is advocacy. To talk to, for instance, the Minister of Power, that they need to up things, of course, through the discourse and so on and so forth.
All right.
Yes.
So now that the Day for the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises has been observed and celebrated, and some key things have been noted, what next after June 27th?
Yes, as part of our celebration yesterday, we had a panel discussion. Apart from the work we did, roadshow and so on to celebrate MSME, we had a panel discussion, and the panel contained panelists from the commercial banks, the microfinance banks, the MSME operators, and so on and so forth. The aim of that discussion is to come up with workable solutions, because yesterday during the panel, operators were talking about their inability to access affordable finance. And the commercial banks were talking about their inability to lend because these people do not have collaterals and so on and so forth. So the conclusion was that since they cannot afford access these finances from commercial banks, that the government should come up with intervention funds, just like what the CBN is doing. But also the CBN too is passing it through the commercial banks who use their normal lending processes, which also makes it impossible for small businesses to access these funds. So we're talking about yesterday we advocated for establishment establishment of a robust MSME development bank that will be targeted at making sure that money goes directly to small businesses without hindrance. And we're working towards that.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Monday Evans, the Acting Director General of SMEDAN. We'll have to end this discussion for now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Moving on, the Presidential Committee on Impact and Readiness Assessment of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, has recommended the signing of the agreement. This is coming after Nigeria declined to ratify the decision by the African Union's heads of state and governments to establish AFCFTA to create a single continental market for goods and services in member nations. The agreement covers trade in goods, services, investment, and rules and procedures on dispute settlement, including a range of provisions to facilitate trade, reduce transaction costs, provide exceptions, flexibilities, and safeguards for vulnerable groups and countries in challenging circumstances. Nigeria set up a committee that looked into the issue to advise accordingly. The advice to sign the pact is part of the recommendations of the report presented to President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa in Abuja.
But also a continental manufacturing agenda. Our vision for intra-African trade is for the free movement of made-in-Africa goods. That is, goods and services made locally with dominant African content in terms of raw materials and value addition. If we allow unbridled imports to continue, it will dominate our trade. The implication of this is that coastal importing nations will prosper while landlocked nations will continue to suffer and depend on aid. The African Continental Free Trade Area we aspire to have should therefore not only create wealth for investors, but also jobs and prosperity for our vibrant and hardworking citizens. The benefits of economic growth must be prosperity for the masses. Henceforth, we shall ensure that our negotiated agreements create business opportunities for Africa's manufacturers, service providers, and innovators.
The AFCFTA, therefore, provides immense opportunities for Nigeria's manufacturing and service companies to expand to Africa. Today, many Nigerian companies have developed capacity in some of these sectors and have long desired to expand to Africa, but have been constrained by trade barriers which AFCFTA is expected to remove. Our report shows that on the balance, Nigeria should consider joining the AFCFTA and using the opportunity of the ongoing AFCFTA Phase 1 negotiations to secure the necessary safeguards required to ensure that our domestic policies and programs are not compromised.
Bargain hunting Thursday helped break the spell of continuous decline in the Nigerian stock market. At the close of trade this Friday, which is the last trading day for the month of June, the all-share index advanced by 0.73% to finish the month at 29,966.87 points and market capitalization at 13.205 trillion naira. 248 million equities swapped hands in 3,184 deals valued at 5.403 billion naira. Banking stocks dominated activities during the session, led by Guaranty Trust Bank, EcoBank, and Zenith. Asian stocks edged lower as investors watch for G20 summit development. Bosede Ebel has details.
Many experts have projected that the United States and China are likely to agree to a temporary pause in any trade war escalation. But President Donald Trump has suggested he may be looking to levy new tariffs on China if they both don't reach a consensus. However, investors are optimistic that the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan on Saturday may result in some sort of long-term deal. European markets opened trade for 28 June higher. DAX topped 0.51%, FTSE 0.2% and CAC 0.11%. Stocks in Asia depreciated as investors look forward to development at the meeting between President Trump and Xi at the G20. Nikkei slipped 0.29%, Shanghai Composite 0.6%, and the Hang Seng Index also declined more than 0.28% as at its final hour of trading. US stock index futures were higher. Futures on the S&P and Nasdaq were marginally higher in early trading, while stocks in Africa were mixed.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of Business Express. You can access all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is at NTA News Now with the hashtag BizX. We value your feedback, so keep the mails coming and join us again on Monday next week. I am Muplang Dakok saying keep thinking and doing business.